A few days ago, I created a video where I showed how to repeat each row a given number of times. So each row is repeated 3 times or 5 times or the specified number of times. But then a few people commented and asked me if there is a formula to repeat the entire range of cells, let's say 3 times or 5 times. So in this video, I'm going to show you two formulas to do this. Both are different formulas, but you are going to learn some new techniques in them. And both of these formulas can be used to repeat an entire range of cells a given number of times. So let's see how it's done. So here I have this data set and I want to repeat this entire range, let's say 3 times. Now to do that, I'm going to use a formula, and the formula should work in such a way that it is going to give me the numbers such as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because there are 6 rows in this case, and then it repeats again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and so on. So if I want to repeat them 3 times, then this number, the sequence of numbers needs to repeat 3 times. Now to do that, we are going to use the sequence function. So in this function, first I need to know the total number of rows. So that can be given by using the rows function, and then I would select this entire data set. Now this is going to give me 6, and if I just use this formula, it is going to give me a sequence of these 6 numbers. But I do not want just these 6 numbers. I want them to be repeated, let's say 3 times. So I can come here and I can multiply this rows formula by 3. If you want to repeat it 5 times, you can multiply it by 5 times. And this gives me the total number of rows that are going to be there in my resulting data set. But I do not want the numbering to be like this. I want it to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and then repeat again and not go to 7, 8 and so on. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the mod function where this is my sequence, and then I would use rows and then again use this value. So what this is going to do is it is going to divide each of these numbers in the array that is given by the sequence function with this value, which is 6 in this case. So now when I hit enter, it gives me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 0. Now this is not what I want. I want it to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's come here and let's subtract 1 from the first argument in this mod function. And now when I do that, it gives me 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it repeats again. Now this is a problem I can solve because I can just come here and in the end add 1. So plus 1, it is going to give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this is exactly what I want. Now I would use this formula and then wrap it within the choose rows function. So in choose rows, I would have the array, which is going to be this entire array. And then it is going to fetch the numbering from here. So now if I hit enter, you can see that I have got the repetition. It is the repetition first time, then the second time, and then the third time. If you want to repeat it 5 times, you can come here and you can change this 3 from 3 to let's say 5, and it is going to repeat the entire data set 5 times. Now to make this even easier, what we can do is we can convert this entire thing into a let function. So that would mean that instead of me having this range multiple times, I could just specify it once within the let function, assign it to a parameter or a variable, and then use that instead of me using this range again and again. So here I would use the let function where let's call this range, and then the range is going to be this range here, comma, and then let's have a repeat value. Let's use 3 as the repeat value, and then this is our formula. So now what I can do is instead of A2 to A7, I can just come here and I can use this value range. Sorry, range. And instead of 5, I can use this value, which is a repeat. And now when I hit enter, you can see I have got the right result. But in this case, if I want to change the range, I can just make the change here and the entire formula is going to update. And if I want to change the repeat value, for example, if I want to repeat them 4 times, I can just change the value here and the entire formula is going to adapt and give me the repetitions 4 times. So this is a fairly straightforward and easy formula that you can use. Now let me show you another formula that uses the reduce function. So here again, I have the same data set and I want to repeat it, let's say 3 times. Now, if I do this manually using the VStack function, then I would have to hard code this 3 times within the function. So A2 to C7, then the range again, and then the range again. And now when I hit enter, it gives me this repetition 3 times. But if I want to repeat it, let's say 5 times, I would have to go inside the VStack function again and make the changes. So I want to make this VStack function dynamic. So let's do that. So to do that, I'm going to use the reduce function. Now reduce function takes 3 arguments. The first one is the initial value. In this case, I'm going to use this entire range as the initial value. Now, a lot of people think that within reduce function, the first initial value could only be a numerical value, but you can also use a range. Now, the second argument is an array, and reduce function works by picking that array value one by one and putting it inside the third argument, which is a lambda function. In this case, we just want this to be an array that is going to tell us that the iteration needs to go 2 times or 3 times. So let's start with just one, and I'll explain how this works later. And then finally we have the function. So we would have the lambda function where we have a comma b and then the function. Now a is going to take the value of the initial value, which is a2 to c7, and b is going to take one value at a time from the array from this part. Now in this case we just have one single value, which is 1, so b is going to become 1 and there is only going to be one iteration. Now within the lambda function we can use the vstack function, and here in array we are going to use a, which is our initial value, which is a2 to c7, and then repeat this range again. And see what happens when I hit enter. It is going to repeat the entire range 2 times. Why 2 times? Because within vstack I have a, which is a2 to c7, and then I have mentioned the range again. So it does the vertical alignment, vertical stacking 2 times. Now here is the interesting thing. If in this case, instead of one element, I have 2 elements, then the vstack function is going to run 2 times and I'm going to get the repetition 3 times. See what happens if instead of 1, I use 1, 1, or I could use anything, 2, 2, a, b, anything. The idea here is that because we are not using this element anyway, the only purpose this is solving is giving us how many number of times the vstack function should iterate. In this case, it would iterate 2 times. The first time it is going to give us the repetition of the range once, and then when it iterates again, it is going to add the range again. See what happens when I hit enter? It gives us the repetition 3 times. Now, what we can do is instead of using 1, 1, I want to make this dynamic. So I can use the sequence function here. Okay. So the sequence function here. And if I want to repeat it, let's say 3 times, I would use 3 minus 1. And this way, this is going to give me an array of 2 elements, and then this is going to repeat my entire data set 3 times. See what happens when I hit enter? It repeats it 3 times. If I want this repetition 5 times, I can change this to 5, and it is going to give the repetition 5 times. So my formula is ready. Now let's make it easier by converting it into a let function. So let me copy this. Move this. Let's use the let function where we can start with a range as the variable name, and then select this entire thing. Then the second could be repeat. Then let's repeat it 3 times. And then finally we would have the formula that we created. And within the formula, instead of a2 to c7, I can use range. And same thing here, a2 to c7, I can use range. And instead of 5, I can replace it with this name repeat. And now when I hit enter, you can see it works. If I want to change this, if I want to repeat it 10 times, I can come here, change this to 10, and it is going to repeat 10 times. So this is how the reduce function works. So in this video, I've shown you 2 ways to do it. First is a relatively straightforward way by using the choose rows function, where you just create a sequence of numbers and then it uses choose rows to give you one row at a time. And then the second method is using the reduce function, where it takes the entire range and then appends that range using the vstack function within the reduce function. That's it in this video. I hope you found this useful. Also, if you're liking these videos, please subscribe to this YouTube channel and click on the bell icon so that you never miss out on any new Excel tips video I come up with. Thank you and have a nice day.